Our big drive on getting the union to the flight line was never really originally about wages, and I don't think it is now. I think it was to keep the rules in black and white, and Boeing needs to follow the rules, and to give us some security, because if they can fire people, move people around on a whim, that's what people are worried about. They want job security. They want to know every day what they're coming into and what to expect.
So if we had a contract, at least where there was a pay scale, so people could plan, well, I can afford to buy a new house because I know if I do my job as expected of me, in 2 or 3 years, I will be making this much money because it says so in a contract.
It works in every other location. Why not here? I don't really understand the reason for them not to want to be accepting to a union here when it works out in so many other locations.
I mean, there was only 178 of us, and it was like the world's going to end.
The company benefits tremendously from licensed mechanics. They got us, they wanted the experience out on the flight line, because we are the last line of defense. We are there to catch the stuff. We are there to pre-flight, post-flight, run motors, run APUs, stuff that the factory can't do. And we are held accountable not just to the company, we're held accountable to the FAA and the DOT. We are subject to random drug tests, which no one else on the base is. So, I mean, there's so many things that separate us from the rest of the base, and to call us a micro unit, to me, is offensive. We are a unit that they need. They cannot deliver airplane without an A&P mechanic.
It was overwhelming how hard they were fighting. Now with their appeal, you got the governor of South Carolina talking bad about us.
Being a right to work / fire at will state, they get away with it for little things. I mean, I never saw maybe one person, 2 people fired in my first 6 years. We've had 6 or 7 in the past 6 months, and they all happen to be union guys. So actions speak louder than words. They can say it isn't all they want, but we know what we know.
I'd been the lead for probably 3 years or so prior to the incident, and it was just a normal, everyday post-flight on an aircraft that had flown. I had signed some work out, and that particular day, I overheard the flight crew talking about some birds that they had possibly tried to miss during the approach. So they usually walk the aircraft every post-flight to look for things that they could, potential items for them to write up. And as I overheard that, I myself walked around and looked at the aircraft too, didn't notice anything. And then after that, us and the crew, we always do a debrief for any items that they, generated in flight or anything they noticed that needed to be fixed. At that point, during our post-flight, there is a formal inspection that is supposed to be done specifically looking for bird strikes. So since I'd already done that walk-around inspection and overheard the crew talking about it, and they didn't notice any bird strike, I myself didn't notice it, did an additional walk-around to complete the formal inspection, signed it off, and didn't think another thing about it, to be honest with you. I think I've done everything that I could have done right to be, I was pro-union, but at the same time, I was a company guy. I showed up to work, I worked my butt off, I did everything I could do to help the company out, to get the planes out of there, to make us look good as a company. And, I got the best performance reviews you can get from the company from the past 2 years, accolades with extra bonuses and stuff for staying late, helping them out, and doing this, that, and the other. And this is the only thing that I can think of that would have put myself in a category to get myself, into trouble, so to speak, by them was being pro-union. That's the only thing really that I can think of. It's just how it was. I love to work on the airplane. I love the 787, love what I did. So I was always going above and beyond, and a lot of people knew that of me. So when they saw that I got fired for something so minuscule, everybody was like, man, my neck's on the chopping block. I could get fired for anything if those guys would fire you.
Fear and intimidation was a factor, but being fed up became a bigger factor. It overrode the fear because you're just tired of it. It's enough. I mean, what are they going to do to you? It's just a job. You don't have pensions. It's just a job that happens to have insurance, and we're underpaid. We do the same job as Everett for $14 an hour less and worse insurance.
If you accept the status quo and the norm, that's exactly what's going to happen. If you work for some group that, oh, well, this is as good as it gets, it doesn't have to be that way. You deserve what you put into something.
I've looked at some of the contracts in other states in the Northwest, and some of the rules that they have in their contracts, some of the contract language is really, it mimics, you know, the policies that Boeing has now. It's just they just don't want to follow them. Up there, they're held to those policies because it's in a contract, and that's basically all we're asking for is just, you know, basically stick to what you have in paper.
I ended up on second shift with no way out of it, and in my whole career in a union, I never missed one single thing with my daughters. And over the last 3 years, I've missed a lot. And it stinks. My 15-year-old daughter passed away last year in April. And on her last day of life, I was removing tape from an airplane on mandatory overtime because I had to be there. And I know the union can't stop overtime, but I also know there's processes for the overtime, and that the union and the company, I mean, it's black and white. It's no more at the last minute telling you on Friday, oh, you're all up Saturday, Sunday, or at 9 o'clock at night saying you got mandatory 2 hours over or you get a cam. So, I mean, it's really affected my life because I've lost a lot of family time, and I'm getting up at the age where I have a certain number of weekends left. And I don't really want to spend them at work. I live my life so I wouldn't have to do all that.
It's hard to have nice things to say to a company who you've basically gave blood, sweat, and tears for, and had all the faith and belief in the world in, that they would do the right thing on, you know, an occasion. I mean, you think as a hard-working person that if you do the right thing, show up and do the right thing and be honest, that they'll take care of you, and that's basically exactly what didn't happen.
I was never more excited than when we won, and I am proud of the flight line guys because they're finally standing up to management, finally saying enough's enough. It's not all about you and your profits. There's got to be a human factor here somewhere. There's got to be a work-life balance, which they talk about, but they don't. They just talk about it.
So I think having a contract and having a union and having something that we can use on our behalf, you know, basically some people in our court to help us out, basically, instead of just, you know, basically fighting them on our own.
They say you spoke, we listened. Well, obviously they don't listen well because they're still fighting it. So, and we're still getting lots of retribution on the union guys. There's targets on our back, and that's okay. I've been around long enough, I can take that. But the tide's turning over in the factory too, because anytime I go in the factory, if I have my union stuff on, every time someone asks, how can I sign up? What do we do? What do we do? So I think change is coming.